Hello. In the last episode, our character put Sildar Hallwinter back together and they made their way to Cragmore hideout, where Avestrum ordered the fighter to hang back and provide support if needed, and went in alone to finish the job. He swiftly dispatched the bridge sentry and utilized the element of surprise to cast a sleep spell on everyone in the room. Everyone but the goblinoid warlord has been rendered unconscious, and the first rounds were spent on Avestrum putting some distance between himself and the enemies, and the bugbear waking up his forces. The last round started with Clark waking up the last of his goblin fighter and beginning his chase after the intruder. Next was the archer who followed suit, but as he entered the area of the grease spell, he lost his balance, fell over, but decided to use that opportunity to hide away from his foe. And here is where we pick right back up. It's the mage's turn. His familiar just provided him with help against the wolf right next to him, without wasting the strongest spells. It's most probable to kill it the fastest with his flaming cantrip, and so utilizing the advantage and negating the disadvantage, he flings a firebolt right into the beast before him, dealing 4 damage. The dog retaliates, biting at the wizard. Ripper can already taste the blood as its jaws are about to clamp over the human's artery, but the flames made it hesitate, and that hesitation was taken advantage of as the necromancer reacts to the attack with a quick few words as shiny, barbed wire-like tendrils wrap around the canine, instilling doubt in its mind. The attack still hits, but it's not as severe as it could have been. As the wolf grabs hold of his prey, he pulls and trashes, requiring Avestrum to use his strength to maintain his balance. And as he's about to give up, the glimmer of uncertainty in the beast's eye is turned into confidence that allows the mage to stay his ground. The owl flies overhead its master, engaged in close quarters combat, and moves deeper down the passage to gather some intel about the rest of the enemy forces. It just notices the waves and splashes in the grease caused by the archer in the area. In the end, the bird moves just a little bit further north, attempting to stay out of sight. The slowest of the goblins finally gets up, collects his weapon, and rushes over to reinforce his tribe. His firm footing allows him to swiftly go past his chieftain and comrade, and to remain upright as the oily substance slows down his movement. Clark doesn't linger either. He makes his way across the magical puddle with very little difficulty, shouting,
"Clark will build a throne out of your bones, puny one!"
and continues dashing down the passage, readying his weapon to strike. The bowman slowly gets up and steps closer to the commotion to have a shot at the caster, but before he does that, he's made to check his dexterity, as I wasn't quite certain whether you get to avoid the effect altogether if you start in the grease prone already. He succeeds, but before going any further, he makes use of his small size to become hidden and make his shot harder to avoid. He draws the string, looses the arrow, and even with everyone in the way, providing some cover to the target, the projectile finds its mark, dealing 5 piercing damage. The wizard is bloodied and in pain. The situation is suboptimal, but trying to find a better opportunity seems like a bad idea. After all this time holding back and herding the goblinoids into positions, he recites the incantation, thrusts both of his hands together forward, and completes rhymes binding ice. Freezing cold air blows all the way over to the goblin fighter and covers their feet in hard ice that will keep them in place. The low temperature pierces their bodies, dealing 11 points of damage to everyone in the area. The cave dwellers have the right to roll Constitution saving throw to avoid the immobilization and half of the damage. The small creature in the back fails and drops unconscious. The beast at the front can't resist and is defeated, but the warlord seems to have barely defended against this elemental might. The human sees the victory in the bugbear's eyes, but promptly snuffs it with the flash of silvery barbs, turning that disbelief into reliability for the future. As there is no one left to threaten his position, the necromancer continues to back away. As he runs down the natural corridor, he can hear the chieftain's cry echoing against the walls.
"No, Ripper!"
The summoned spirit only pours salt into the open wound by swiping its talons at the frozen in place brute, and then again continues down the narrow passage to the west of the stream. Devastated, Clark spends his action to chip away the ice that holds him down and chases after his nemesis. The archer at the back feels his feet sliding away from underneath him and tries to coordinate his moves to keep his balance, but fails and lands face first into the dark goop. He still has time to act, so he gets up, moves closer to the bridge, takes pause to look around if he's seen, and begins to sneak across, getting closer to his leader. Avestrum is in the clear. He moves all the way back and climbs the chiseled stone steps where he fought Ymik. He decides to take it slowly and safely, and performs the healing prayer, curing his wounds for 7 points of health. His attention is focused on the self-proclaimed warlord, and so he fails to spot the goblin skulking around in the back. The animal companion, however, flies in to provide help against the bugbear and has a chance to spot the small goblinoid, which it takes and informs its master to keep his guard up. Then it retreats to safety. Clark could decide to chuck a javelin at the caster, but it's way more advantageous for him to rely on his strength and damage he can deal in close quarters. Therefore he spends his turn completely closing in on the intruder, directly threatening his space. The archer starts off by getting new lease on life and feigning retreat, only to begin sneaking again. He quickly turns around, poking his body from behind a cover, and shoots his bow, landing but a glancing hit, dealing 3 damage. With the flickering light of his torch, the mage was unable to spot his opponent and take any defensive actions against his attack, but he can take offensive actions against the one closest to him. It is possible to defeat the goblinoid brute in 1 hit, but it's not that likely. The wizard takes his chances, relying on his pet still squeaking and squealing, making the circumstances very neutral again. He commands fire to appear in his hand, takes a swing and lands the attack for all 9 damage. He needed to end it right here, right now. The goblinoid warlord leans back and rolls down the stairs, leaving but a trail of smoke where he stood. The human then, unthreatened, moves over to the stalagmite on this level and uses it as cover. The familiar flies north again to find any stragglers and finds one right in front of it. Surprised, it makes all kinds of noise right next to the archer's ears and retreats where it came from. The goblin is still able to see the light. He begins by sneaking into the room, locates the source, and steps back north, trying to get a better angle for his shot, and releases the arrow that manages to pierce the caster's body, dealing 5 more damage. The necromancer moves over to the other stalagmite, southwest from his position, and readies his action to toss another firebolt once the owl provides some help against the last of the inhabitants of the Cragmore hideout. He then telepathically communicates with the bird, stating, "Destruct this wretch and get Sildar now." The summoned spirit does as told. It flies down to the archer, seemingly about to crash into him, but then swerves and flies down the passage eastwards to then start squawking and hissing, calling the fighter to action. Hallwinter does as planned, dashing upstream and looking around for guidance, but help has been provided, and Avestrum casts his cantrip as soon as he's got clear shot, striking true and dealing 6 fiery damage. The goblin is on its last legs. The shot is too difficult to take from where he is, so first he moves upstairs, finds a good spot, and retaliates from range, lodging another arrow in the mage's body, dealing 7 more damage, evening the odds. But it's now the wizard's turn. He still relies on his burning hatred and conjures another fiery mote that launches at the archer, bypassing his defenses and dealing the final point of damage he needs to end the encounter. The last of the Cragmores falls as the human sighs heavily, collapses on the rock floor and catches his breath. Soon Sildar and the animal companion reach him, only to find him victorious, bloodied and tired. Make sure they won't be getting back up, then strip them of their gear. I need a break. The necromancer orders the fighter, who promptly begins looting. The party spends the rest of the day searching the complex. The bodies are stripped of their equipment, some barely edible pieces of meat are found in the chamber the battle ended in, as well as in the cavern that's been occupied by Clark and his forces, where the team moves to once done with the current location. In here, Avestrum finds a treasure chest, most likely belonging to the tribe's leader, containing 600 copper pieces, 110 silver, 2 potions of healing, and a jade statuette of a frog with tiny golden orbs for eyes, worth 40 gold pieces. All the coins and valuables are quickly pocketed by the mage, as Hallwinter is dragging in the boon he was told to collect, and notices the other crates and sacks, marked with a blue emblem.
Looks like they've captured more supplies from other caravans. Someone probably expects them. We should ask about them in Phandelver. And since you are quite a capable sword, I'd appreciate your escort on the way there. I can offer 50 gold pieces if you'd agree.
I'll take your money, but it's far from enough to buy yourself out of the debt you've got with me. We're probably gonna need a cart for this. I'll have a short rest and go fetch it while you can start moving the crates to the entrance of the cave. Sildar begins moving the supplies, while the wizard recovers 1 level 2 spell slot and spends 3 hit dice to recover 21 hit points. This concludes the Cragmore hideout encounter, earning each player character 275 experience points, which multiplied by 4 is 1100. Killing Clark is worth 200 experience, and each goblin and wolf is worth 50. That puts our hero at 2500 experience points, and I award him an inspiration for tackling the challenge alone. After resting a little bit, the necromancer fetches the cart, and together with the fighter, they load it even fuller of goods he's gonna bring to Phandalin. Before departure, the bodies of the fallen are strung along the entrance to the underground complex to serve as warning. As the night comes, our protagonist and his partner take the last long rest at this location. The trip to the destination will take about a day or two and will be uneventful, so the next episode will begin with the arrival to Phandalin. One more mistake I still made today was I haven't healed 4 hit points after killing the wolf and the goblin with a 2nd level spell thanks to Grim Reaper ability, but fortunately I still managed without it. So see you in the next episode of True Solo D&D, and in the meantime subscribe to the channel and get notified to gain an advantage on spotting the next release.